It's a story about a story who wants to be in a story. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and I'm here today to talk to you about Saving Fable by the very talented Scott Reintgen. I came across this story by accident a few weeks ago. I was wandering the shelves of the children's department of my library and stumbled on its sequel on our new bookshelf. And the story seemed very interesting, and so I picked the first volume up instead and gave it a read, and I quite enjoyed it. The main character is Indira Story, and she's a would-be story character. She lives in a village meant for other people who might be characters in stories someday. She has a brother who was never selected as a character and works on mining story fragments instead. And she lives in preparation for the day when the beacon on her house will light, indicating that an author has shown some interest in her being a character in a story. So one day she heads out for some exercise as part of her training and sees in the distance that the beacon is lit over her house. So she runs back and sees that her next door neighbor has tried to claim the beacon as her own. Indira confronts her, corrects the error, but then finds out that both she and her neighbor have been selected to go to Fable, the city of stories. She arrives at the city and she has to take a test before entering the Protagonist Academy, where story characters learn how to be fully realized and fleshed out characters. And Indira has to compete against her former neighbor. And she is pummeled in all three tests. And instead of training to become a protagonist, she's relegated to learning how to be a side character. Still, it's a chance to be a character in a story, and Indira starts applying herself to her training. She works with professors like Dr. Romeo Montague, who teaches her a class on tragedy, where she has to stare into the rain and look longingly into the distance. She's also taught by Alice from Alice in Wonderland in a class that springs up on you unexpectedly, where she has to learn how to escape from various dangerous situations. Anyway, Indira and her two newfound friends find that there's some very strange things going on around the academy and around the land of Fable in general. And that's something to say, because Fable is already a very odd place. When Indira arrives there, she sees marks, basically animated representations of any time a reader places a bookmark or other thing in a book to remind them of a particular passage. She deals with brainstorms that run the academy. She visits a cafe that has an ephemeral link to authors thinking about their characters. And she even gets to pick out her own family for her backstory should she make it into a finished work. So to say something strange is happening is a little bit of an understatement. At any rate, they get drawn into a great threat that could affect all of Fable and not just the school at the heart of it. It was a really good story, and the sequel was quite good as well. Indira is a very fun character with real flaws. The basic premise of her being a would-be story character who hoped to become a protagonist was really well done. The presence of her brother as a failed character lent some real depth to what she was trying to accomplish. And overall, I quite enjoyed it. The cameos, almost, of famous characters as teachers at her school was wonderful as well. And it was a lot of fun. And the sequel was really good too. And I'd quite recommend it. If you have a reader in your life, either a student or a child or a patron at your library who likes writing or likes books about stories in general, I'd very much recommend Saving Fable. Now, with that said, I do have to talk briefly about the deal breaker. Now, this is a fairly minor thing, and it's not so much to do with the quality of the story itself or its plot, but Saving Fable and its sequels seem to be falling into a category of books that I've started to personally think of as librarian baiting. Books that target library staff members as an audience, knowing that they will recommend and push the book to potential readers. And honestly, I've been caught up by it if I'm doing this video. But things like the Lemoncello series, starting with The Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library, or Ban This Book by Alan Gratz, books that are written very, very strongly to appeal to library staff members. And this fits right into that category, with the Marks wandering around the land of Fable and the brainstorms as actual characters. There's a lot here that is written to make library staff members think, oh, that's a clever idea, and I bet kids would like this. And I think they would. It just, this trend to me feels just a little bit heavy-handed these days, that there are more and more books falling into that category of writing for librarians as an audience rather than kids. But overall, that's a fairly minor nitpick. I thoroughly enjoyed this story and its sequel, and I can't wait to see more of Indira's stories. With that, if you liked this video, please, by all means, click the like button and consider subscribing if you'd like to see more of my Reader's Advisory videos. I've got more things coming up from the Cowhat Library. Thank you. Bye now.